because it's time to talk Turkey, as it were. Time to talk serious politics with Sarah Pochin from Reform, who is with me now. Sarah, very good morning to you.
That's so hard to now talk serious politics. Oh, obviously, the sight of you going to those bins. But I'd actually like to put a claim in for the crane
Yeah.
because I have a pond at home and the herons eat all my fish.
Oh, dear.
So, listen, the perfect place for that crane is to come home with me to Cheshire and we'll put it on my pond and I'll send you a little video.
That'd be great, actually. Maybe that's what we should do, because we can't really decide what to do. And, you know, there are no fish to be saved here in the studio. So I think that's a very good idea. Very good idea indeed. Now, I mean, if I had come to you this morning and told you the story of what's been happening in the Labour government for the past sort of 48 hours, you probably wouldn't believe me. You know, I've been in this business a long time. I've never seen a scandal like this. People have started to say it's as bad as Profumo, goes all the way back to that. I was a bit young when that happened, but it's certainly the biggest political scandal, because we don't even know where it ends yet, do we?
Well, yet again, we're seeing Keir Starmer's judgment being brought into question. You know, his judgment of the people he surrounds himself with has already been in question with the various ministers that have had to resign. You know, you had the corruption minister resigning for corruption and so on and so forth. But this appointment of Mandelson as our representative in the United States, one of the most sought after and senior and high profile positions that this country, this government gives to somebody, it's an honour. And yet Peter Mandelson gets given that. And thank God he's now been stripped of it. But what it does tell us is that the judgment of this Prime Minister yet again is called into question. Now, that is one thing, but let alone what's happened in Peter Mandelson's murky past. And do you know what, Mike? I actually think that Peter Mandelson is looking potentially at a jail sentence, because this is market manipulation. He shared government information, incredibly sensitive information with his friends. And I think you're looking at market manipulation and criminal charges.
You've got a background as a magistrate. You know the law. You know, this is clearly, and he hasn't denied it. You know, he's kind of slightly mealy-mouthed said, "I don't recall whether I sent that email. I don't have any recollection of the money going into my account," which sort of sounds a bit like a non-denial denial, doesn't it? But it gets worse. You know, we learned last night that he was having a conversation with Epstein about persuading Alistair Campbell and Gordon Brown to do a deal with the Lib Dems to stay in power because Epstein didn't fancy being in opposition. You know, almost as though Epstein was a sort of de facto member of the cabinet.
What you're seeing here, what the British public can't stand, is a group, and yet again, of men or people in powerful positions prepared to act fraudulently, to act with corruption, without integrity. They're powerful, they're wealthy, they want to control the political establishment, let alone the abuse of young women that has clearly gone on in every way. This is sordid, this is distasteful, and it's exactly what the British public hate about the establishment.
It really is. And I mean, I think if Starmer's reputation was at an all-time low before all of this came out, it now is, you know, even further down below that, because it's his judgment is now in question. Dan Hodges has written a great piece in the Mail today, which I recommend you read. I don't know if you have, where he says, look, there are only three possible choices here. One, Starmer didn't bother asking anybody from the United States about, you know, the problems with Peter Mandelson and his connections with Epstein. Two, he was told about it and he basically didn't do anything and decided not to reveal that to anybody else. And three, he just basically kind of sat there and did a favour for a mate. In any of those three circumstances, surely Starmer has to go as well.
Exactly. Look, anyone who reaches the highest level of government, like Keir Starmer now has, needs to behave with the highest amount of integrity. You know, we need to be squeaky clean as politicians. And he clearly is involved in something very, very unsavoury. Now, you're not telling me that Keir Starmer did not know about some of Peter Mandelson's skeletons, because Peter Mandelson has been at the heart of the Labour Party for his entire adult life. And so I do not buy for a second that Keir Starmer didn't know anything about any of this. But more importantly, surely Peter Mandelson was vetted thoroughly. Surely the Prime Minister was told by our security services that he was not an appropriate choice to be the United Kingdom's representative in the United States. I'm not buying any of that. This is murky. It's absolutely stinks. And you know what? I think Keir Starmer could well end up going over this.
I think so, because, I mean, there have been so many other things he should have gone over, and this would appear to be the final straw. The other question I was asking, I asked Gerald Howarth, who used to be the Minister for Security in the government of 2010. Basically, how is it possible that a senior member of the cabinet, as business secretary and effectively Deputy Prime Minister to Gordon Brown, can send information, sensitive information, financially very sensitive information, to an outsider from a different country who happens to be a financier as well as happening to be a paedophile? But how is it possible for him as a minister to send, very, very sensitive information outside of Downing Street without anybody knowing about it?
Well, the scary thing, isn't it? We talk about, endlessly. I talk about the Chinese sabotaging, spying on us, being in the heart of our government. And yet here, you actually have complicit in this sort of, passing of highly sensitive information. You have our own government ministers. This is absolutely shocking. And how can the British people have confidence now in this Prime Minister? I don't think they had any left, or it was minimal. Even the hardcore Labour voters are now turning to reform. But the point is that nobody can have confidence in this Prime Minister anymore. I really do think he will end up going over this. I think Mandelson will end up in jail over this. And then, of course, we have the whole sordid connection with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. As I say, it's distasteful. And I think you're right. It may prove to be a scandal as big as the Profumo scandal, which we all still know and talk about, and it became almost an infamous time in history, didn't it? But this is got a long way to go, I think, and I would imagine there are a lot of people feeling very uncomfortable about what photographs and what messages are out there that their names are on.
Yeah, exactly right. Prime Minister's questions, of course, today. I don't know if you're going to be in the chamber, because it looks like you're. Hopefully you are. I don't know if Reform have got a question, but Kemi Badenoch supposedly is going to be pressing hard for a vote on stripping Mandelson of his title, because at the moment he can still call himself Lord Mandelson, even though he's resigned from the Lords. But I also worry slightly that Starmer's going to get up at Prime Minister's questions and basically try and get away with saying, oh, well, because there's now a police investigation going on, I can't possibly comment on any questions that you might wish to ask me. Do you think he might do that?
Yeah, well, look, he doesn't answer any questions as it is. In fact, no Labour front bench. I ask endless questions in the chamber and never get a straight answer. Get laughed at, get ignored, get heckled. It's not what the British public expect or should expect from their politicians. So Starmer, no, of course he won't be asking any questions. He'll be deflecting it and trying to push it all away from him. But but the fact is, I do hope that Kemi goes hard on him today, and Reform would also like to see him stripped, Mandelson, to see him stripped of any title and never be allowed to come back to a high profile position in public office. He's already proved to be a man with several lives, Mandelson, over the years. But no, this has to be it. He has to go. And like I say, I think he'll find himself on holiday at Her Majesty's pleasure, or should I now say His Majesty's pleasure.
Yes, indeed. And it looks like he may lose his pension from the European Union. I'm not quite sure of the reasoning behind that, but that's what I read this morning. Surely that he'll also be in receipt, presumably, of a pension from the House of Commons and presumably from his time in government. Should he have that docked, do you think, as well? if he's found
Absolutely.
guilty?
All of his privileges should go if he's found guilty.
Yeah.
I absolutely think the public have had enough of corrupt people in positions of power lining their own pockets at the taxpayers' expense.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's talk a bit about what happened yesterday. Nigel Farage in a pub, unusually for him. This time launching some policy though, not just having a drink, saying that they're going to cut. You, if you get in, are going to cut VAT down to 10%, and you're going to make it a lot easier for pub owners to actually make a living, which at the moment they're finding very hard, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. Look, reform, if we get into power, we value the pub. We value it as part of British history, part of our culture, and importantly, a place where, people go and debate things like politics, without not being allowed to talk about that. We welcome free speech, and the pub it should be the heart of free speech. So reform will decrease business rates for pubs. We will decrease VAT for pubs. We will decrease beer duty for pubs. We need to support pubs. We need to support the hospitality sector as a whole. This hospitality sector has already, under this Labour government, lost, last time I looked about a month ago, 118,000 jobs. It's reported that, there's pub shutting every day under this Labour government. This is our heritage, it's our culture, and this government needs to support it.
Absolutely, and I enjoyed the sort of the faux beers that were put up at the pub launch, including Job Goblin with a picture of Rachel Thieves, as we like to call it, Landlord Hell. We've got Starmer's Atwit. We've got Doomed Bar, which was all very good. Because I was watching, or rather reading a piece the other day in which it said that as alcohol tax has gone up this week, the average cost of a pint is now reaching sort of £7, £7.50 in a lot of places, of which landlords only get about 47 pence.
It's absolutely crazy, isn't it? The tax now on things like this, and it's prohibitive, and it's no wonder that pubs are struggling. And of course, under the Labour government, who clearly have no comprehension of what it's like to run a business, as we know, none of them on the front bench have ever run their own business. But they put on national insurance increases. They put the minimum wage up. They're introducing the workers' rights bill. Everything that stops small businesses employing people, everything that stops growth. And without growth in this country, we cannot prosper. I have up in my constituency of Runcorn and Helsby on Friday morning my first business breakfast for a group of businessmen locally. And I guarantee you I will be hearing this story time and time again about high street business rates, about all the things I've just mentioned, how hard it is now to employ people. This Labour government is doing everything it can to destroy the economy and destroy growth in this country.
Yeah, exactly right. I think we've got a little clip actually from your colleague Dr. David Bull on the pub situation. Have a look.
Today, Reform UK launched our campaign to save Britain's pubs. This is to back British boozers. We believe that over the course of the next Parliament, we can save you £1 off your pint, and we do that by actually cutting VAT, making sure that we reverse the employer's national insurance back down to 13.8%. We will cut the beer duty to 10%. And over time, we will also reduce the burden to hospitality industries. It's the right thing to do. It's the way forward to save our local communities, our rural communities, and to bring people and families back together.
Dr. David Bull, what a fine man. Lovely little microphone. And now I saw the bus in the background there. Here's a question for you. How many parking tickets has the bus accrued since you've been travelling around the country?
Well, actually, I was pictured in the driving seat of that bus up in Gorton and Denton last week. It's absolutely fabulous. It actually belongs to Richard Tice. He's got a reform bus and a reform taxi.
Yes.
So there you go. But David Bull is absolutely right. I wasn't actually allowed to go to the pub launch. I had to go and do the sensible thing of debating the 2-child benefit cap in the chamber.
Right.
So I was sent out to to do the hardcore in the chamber and take the barrage of abuse from the opposition benches, whilst, yes, Nigel and Lee and David were all in the pub. But there
Very
you
nice.
go.
Very nice too. Well, it's good to see them promoting the feminine side of the party, though. And obviously now you've got Sola Braverman on board as well to even things up slightly. Let me ask you about the by-election, by the way. What are you hearing up there on the doorstep when you walk around?
Yeah, look, I've been up 3 times and I'm going up again tomorrow. It's absolutely ours to win. Labour have collapsed. They made such a hash of the whole Andy Burnham fiasco that Labour voters, I think, are just in despair. And interestingly, it's not unlike Runcorn and Helsby, my by-election, which was the last by-election we've had, in that it's a safe Labour seat, or always has been, Gorton and Denton. And yet now, as I say, Labour's collapsed. They're in disarray up there. They put up I'm sure she's a very nice candidate, but Greek. And then we have the Tories in complete collapse. Two up there, they just irrelevant. They were in Runcorn and Helsby too. So in Runcorn and Helsby, it was a 2-horse race between Reform and Labour. In Gorton and Denton, interestingly, I think now it is a 2-horse race between Reform and probably the Green Party.
Yes.
The Lib Dems are irrelevant everywhere apart from Cornwall. I don't know, but really now with Galloway pulling out, with Corbyn pulling out, and getting behind the Green Party, unusually, I mean, how interesting in British politics that the two main parties historically literally I don't believe are featuring in this by-election.
Right. It is fascinating, isn't it? And of course, the fake plumber is the Green candidate, isn't she? People keep making out that all these claims that she makes about going up ladders and fixing gutters and having plasterers.
Yeah,
what's that word again, Pooch? What do you call it? A hawk, holding a hawk in her hand with so much plaster on it, and everyone's going, she clearly has never done this in her life, But what about Advance as well? Because Nick Buckley is standing for Advance. Is there a worry that might sort of weaken or water down the Reform vote?
I don't think so. Look, people know what Reform stand for, and they know that, if they want to have core British values and prioritising the British people, then they need to get behind Nigel, because the fact is Nigel is going to be, most likely going to be the next Prime Minister of our great country, and therefore I think, it's going to be a vote for Reform every step of the way, because people want to get behind a winner, don't they? Nigel is a winner, and I think Reform stand a very good chance of winning this by-election. And oh my goodness, I'll tell you what, if Keir Starmer hasn't gone by then, he will, I'm sure, have to go if they lose this by-election.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't see any way that that's going to end up with Labour winning at all. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was I saw you in the chamber talking about the police, and the Cheshire Police in particular,
yes,
who you've been working with recently on a lot of domestic violence arrests. Tell us a bit about that.
Do you know what? The Cheshire Police are incredible. They're led by an exceptional Chief Constable in Mark Roberts. And on Monday, I was privileged enough, and I use that word on purpose because it made me feel so proud that I have in Cheshire Police, or we have up in Cheshire, a force that is only interested in catching criminals. I didn't see a rainbow shoelace in sight or a rainbow lanyard, none of that nonsense. I saw hardcore policing, policemen and policewomen. I witnessed the brief they had that morning, and what they were doing a Cheshire-wide raid on known perpetrators of things like violence against women and girls, domestic violence, that were out there evading the police, evading the courts, and they were going after them big time. And the last night, by about 3:00, I know they brought in 43 wanted perpetrators, wanted criminals. They were ready to process them. They'd got the space to process them. The operation was slick, efficient, and very, very impressive. And I was so proud to have Cheshire Police as my police force, because that's what they want to do. Police want to get back to basics. They want to get out on the street streets and catch criminals. They don't want to spend hours in woke training courses learning about pronouns and all this nonsense. They want to be out there catching criminals. And what I saw on Monday morning was a police force that is all about presence, about making people feel safe, and about catching criminals. And
Right.
it was just an absolute honour to be there.
I wish they'd come to London and teach the Metropolitan Police how to do that, because
Quite.
that would be great. Couple of things finally. We've got a poll running today. We do a poll every day. This one, well, I'm afraid it stopped, I'm afraid, when we had a crash on the system. But the question today was, who is the world's greatest genius? So I'm going to ask you if you can give us your vote. Is it Albert Einstein? Is it Isaac Newton? Is it Stephen Hawking? Or is it David Mastermind Lammy?
Do you know what? David Lammy actually dared to. I think he insulted Lee Anderson in the chamber last week over
His
sort of
IQ or
like
something, right?
his IQ. Yeah, well, of course we fell about, and Lee is very, very quick in the chamber with his jokes. He has me in stitches all the time, and obviously pushed back on the mastermind front to Lammy. But what an absolute embarrassment that man is. But do you know what? I always feel so humbled by the people that push the boundaries. Whether it's Mozart or Elon Musk, whether you like him or hate him, these are people that we need in our world. They're global sort of influencers that push technology, that do creatively wonderful, genius things. And it always makes me feel very humble when we talk about these people. But whether it's, like I say, whether it's the very old philosophers or whether it's people like Elon Musk now, I'm sorry, but like him or loathe him, you've got to admire them because they are what make progress. Us politicians can do what we do, and you do what you do, Mike, and we all do our best. But without geniuses, real geniuses, then we don't make progress.
Entrepreneurs, and that's why we should encourage them to stay in the country as opposed to leaving, because of the ridiculous taxes that this government puts on them. I mean, I was listening the other day to a story about Elon Musk where he's apparently thinking of putting data centres, these huge data centres which are going to suck all the power out of the earth and put them in space. And I mean, he'll probably do it because, I mean, he just wakes up in the morning and goes, I know, I'll invent a rocket and I'll send it up to space and then it can land on the moon and then we've got a data centre there which will be run completely by robots. And you kind of go, okay. All right, then.
Talking about space, have you heard this story this morning about what they're trying to do in space?
No.
It's a bit naughty.
Is it?
They're trying to work out a way that people, I don't know if I should say this live on air, but I was listening to it this morning on the radio. They're trying to work out a way that astronauts can have a bit of nookie.
Sex.
Am I allowed to say that?
You can say
in
sex.
Space.
Well, they'd have to take the spacesuit off first, wouldn't they? Presumably.
I'm not getting into the detail, but apparently they've designed some kind of belt that you can put around each other so that you don't float away from each other.
Fair enough. I'm sure there'll be a lot of women asking for one of those just to have on Earth, never mind in space. So you can't stray too far away. Finally, I've got a lot of people saying they don't want us to take the crane out of the studio, but I'll tell you what, we'll make you an offer that you can't refuse. If Reform win the by-election, we'll send you a crane to put on the pond. What about that? So there you go. So yet another incentive, Sarah, to win the by-election up in Gorton. Great to see you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We'll be fascinated to watch Prime Minister's questions today. I think it will probably have the highest audience of all time to watch Starmer squirming. It'll be absolutely brilliant. Fantastic to see you. Great to see you. Hopefully next time in the studio we'll see you as well. Sarah Pochin, MP for Runcorn for Reform. Brilliant stuff. I mean, only on this show would you get conversations about sex in space, whether or not David Lammy's a genius. By the way, he's